to my talk on scripting today.
My name is Pontesegger. I'm the project lead of the Eclipse project, which deals with scripting and bringing scripts to the UI. Today I'd like to talk about a special topic of this framework. It's called keywords, and it allows you to extend the behavior of the IDE, of any RCP actually, and it also allows you to a little bit change and put additions to the UI. First of all, I would like to know, who of you out there already heard of ease or used it already? Please raise your hands. Thanks. So the rest of you never heard about this framework? This is true? Yeah, see some nodding heads. So let me give a very brief introduction. I have a few slides here, but I do not like slides. So I'm a guy that does like live demos. We'll do a lot of them. Just flick quickly through them. I will put them on, and later on you can have a closer look to them. So what is ease? Ease is built above all the frameworks in the IDE that you have to write scripts, like editors, like the JSDT framework that allows you to write JavaScript, like PyDev that allows you to write Python code. We also do not directly provide the engine, so a script engine to execute code, like the Python engine or a Python interpreter on your system. This is nothing that ease does. We're simply using it. So ease is a layer above that, here, which just uses JSDT, the editor stuff, maybe enriches it a bit, and uses even engines like Rhino or Nashorn or Python, and executes scripts. Right in the same IDE, you're writing your script. So we do not launch an external interpreter. Normally, I would say there are extensions to that, but that will come later. So the very first thing you might get in touch with when you start ease is the Rhino script shell, or the script shell in general. It allows you to write scripts very similar to a bash, for example, where you write one-liners and execute them right away. We allow you to access the Java runtime too, so you're not bound to whatever the script engine gives you and the script language provides to you. You can directly access Java files. And as your script is running on the same JRE than Eclipse itself, you cannot only access Java files, you could also access anything that's available in the Eclipse universe. So you can access your UI, your views, for example, all the frameworks like Mylin, eGate, whatever you can think of directly in your scripts without relaunching anything. We do have some kind of code completion. This currently works for JavaScript. The next step will be to bring this to Python too. We have tooltips, so we have the same help that JDT has. We do provide some kind of mechanism to add some libraries to script engines, because a lot of script engines do not have lots of functionality. JavaScript, for example, is a quite dumb language. Sorry, thanks. Yeah. So JavaScript is a quite dumb language, and we provide additional functionality by means of modules. Modules are POJOs, basically. You can load them dynamically in your runtime, execute them. You can take any file you want, any Java file you have, any class you have, and promote it to a module if you want, just by a small extension point you have to add to your system. We do provide dedicated help to your modules, so we provide them automatically created out of Java.doc. We can find in those files. You can do that at build time if you want, using Tycho, as we do for the Ease project itself. We also provide launch support officially for scripts, so you have launch targets. If there is launching support, you also get debug support here. And then we have those script libraries. And this is a topic I want to have a closer look today. So now I'm already switching to the live demo. What I've got here is a Eclipse Mars.2 version with the ease extensions installed to the system. So you can see we have our own perspective for scripting, which provides us the Rhino script shell you've seen just before. And I've provided some sample scripts I'd like to show you today. For scripting itself, when you just host scripts in your IDE, like in the workspace, for example, they are just plain script files. Ease is not dealing in a special way with them. So what you could do is you could right-click and run them as an Ease script. So this is the launch extension we added to Eclipse. But if you want to do more, if you want to extend your IDE, you need to register that scripts in a special way. For that, we have in the preferences, under scripting, the script locations. So script locations are places in your workspace, on your file system, on the web possibly, where you host script files which do add a special behavior to your IDE. So I can add dedicated locations. Here I'm using a folder called live, which is currently empty. I will copy scripts step by step to that folder, and we can see how these scripts change the behavior of the IDE. You could also use other locations here, like you could use file URIs, host your script on a network drive in your company if you like to. You can host them on a web server if you want to. If it provides plain index files like Apache by default does, you can host your scripts there. You could also host your scripts in plugins again. So you can have scripts just push to a plugin, push them to your users via P2, and use a platform plugin URI scheme in here to denote the place where I can find those scripts. So what Eclipse now does, it monitors the content of the live folder in here, which I just registered, and tries to look for scripts in there, script files. And if it finds script files, it will display them in the Script Explorer view down here. I want to start with the very first one. I just copy over the script to the live folder, which is monitored, and you can see Ease picks up that script and displays me, oh, I found a new script, which you might want to execute. And now we're going to, before I execute the script and actually show what it does, I'd like to show you about the keywords, about the mechanism, how to extend the IDE. Is it readable to you all back there? Okay. So what Ease does is, for all monitored scripts you can find in here in the Script Explorer, it scans the very first section of the script. And if there is a comment section in there, so before the code starts, it looks for a comment section, could be a block comment, could be multiple line comments, and it looks for key value pairs in there. If it detects such key value pairs, some of them have meaning and change the behavior. And now I'd like to show you some of them. The very first I will add is something called toolbar. So this means when I push in this keyword and once I save the file, it will look for a toolbar of a view called Project Explorer, and it will add the script to that toolbar dynamically. So once I click Save, you should see a new item popping up here. See? So we got a new link to the script we just added and we just modified directly in our runtime, which changes our runtime behavior. And once I click that button, it executes the script that's behind that. What I do want is, currently we see the name explore from here.js, which is not quite nice. So I do want to provide a nicer name, possibly. Just again, save your script, and you can see everything works live in the system. So you do not have to restart anything. You do not have to know anymore about plugins, about extension points, how to register some kind of command contribution. It all works directly just by means of keywords. The next thing, of course, is you do want an icon, right? So I can change it to a platform icon if I like to. So this icon is derived from a plugin, actually, from the Org Eclipse Ease UI plugin. You also could use icons from your workspace. You could use icons from the web, as we can see later, everything dynamically. So when we can add stuff to the toolbar, we can also add stuff to the view menu. Like this. Which means your script pops up in the view menu. And when talking about menus, there's one more. We can push scripts to pop-up menus anywhere in our IDE. So what this does here, it tries to adapt the current selection to something of type iResource, which is the Eclipse resource framework, which is basically everything you can see in your Project Explorer or in any other Explorer view in Eclipse. And if the selected thing is adaptable to iResource, we will find the scripts in the context menu. Let's launch it. You can guess it will open a Windows Explorer right at the location where we launched the script. And if we have a closer look how this works, the scripts makes use of two of those modules I said. So previously I said we can provide script libraries that can host functionality in there. And two of them are the platform and the UI module. UI module allowing us to get the current selection. And what we do with that selection, we basically unpack it. This is some kind of mixture of Java and JavaScript code. So you see we are using Java class names in here. We are adapting stuff, so we try to adapt the selection to an IDE resource. We're trying to denote a container out of it, so like the folder or the project. And the last thing we do is we run the process. This command comes from the platform module and allows you to launch an external program. That's basically it. So it's not a lot of magic in this script. Quite easy to write just a script and to extend your IDE by means of that. So let's go to the next one. It's called based bin. You might already guess what it does. If I look at the script, it just has the pop-up section in here and says, enable this script for any kind of text selection you get in text editors. It derives its image from the web directly, and now hopefully the web is working here. So I select some text, right-click, and I have the copy to paste bin action right now here. Clicking that will send the script to paste bin just to see that it works. And you can see your code is live on the web. So this is another small extension you can do with few lines of code. You might think this looks a bit more complicated. In fact, most of this stuff was copied from Stack Overflow, just from an example there. So this is a typical way you can write your script. Just find some code, modify it a little bit to make it JavaScript style, and it's basically all you have to do. The next two scripts we will look at are called event parse. The names are very easy, ping and pong, which means the ping script doesn't have any kind of keywords in here. So it means we have to start it somehow directly by running it. We will do that in a second. And what it does, it posts an event to the event bus, to the broker service. So if you're not familiar with that, this is an E4 concept. It's a general messenger where you can send topics to, post topics to, and where you can subscribe to those topics from another thread. And it's somehow decoupling that publisher-subscriber pattern you typically find in Eclipse. So you have a service, you have to add your listener to the service, which has to fulfill a dedicated interface. This is somehow broken up with the broker service. And the second script, Pong, is waiting for an event on that broker service. It waits for an event with a dedicated topic, so this is some kind of filter for events up here. And once that event happens, the script is launched. So the previous keywords we've seen just add stuff to the UI or changes behavior in the UI, and now we have a keyword that reacts on something, that waits on events and reacts upon them. Before that works, we have to copy our Pong script to the live folder, which means now it's monitored. So if the script would be hosted outside of the live folder, it wouldn't be monitored. We wouldn't care about keywords. So, and if we launch the ping script, of course, you can see that the Pong script is launched and basically just displays the dialog. Now let's look a little bit more how those keywords work and what they can do. There's a tool called Event Spy in Eclipse. It allows you to monitor that broker service we just had a look at. And we can capture events by using a filter, because the IDE itself is pushing quite a lot of events, and we do not want to see them all. So now I'm capturing events, and I'm going to one of our monitored scripts. And what you can see here, whenever I change a keyword, you do get an event on the event bus for this. So each keyword has its own channel on the event bus where it publishes changes to scripts. So you can see the old value before we changed it, you can see the new value. Right, that. You can see the new value, you can see which script was affected by that keyword change. And that's a way you can listen to your own keywords too. So you're not bound to use the keywords that ease provides to you. You could have a new one. Let's call it play music and use whatever. I'm an old-fashioned guy, you see. So then you can see you get a new keyword event immediately right after saving the file. So if you do want to create your own events, your own behavior in Eclipse, you just push your keywords there, have a listener to the broker service, and can react on your keywords and can add your scripts to any kind of behavior you would like to add them to. The next thing I'd like to show you is a builder script. You know, in Eclipse, when you save stuff, typically all kinds of builders start running, like syntax checking or the compiler for Java class files, things like that. Adding your own custom builder means you have to dig somehow into that Eclipse builder framework that's there. You need to add a nature typically to your project and things like that. You could do that easier by using ease. So we have a custom builder script, and it has a new keyword in here, on save, which means whenever you save a file in an editor, this script will be triggered. And it also has a filter, so it just triggers on JavaScript files here. The script is quite simple. What it does, it basically deletes all markers it finds on a file, then looks at the very first line in the file, and if it starts with a comment, everything's fine. If it doesn't start with a comment, it just adds a warning marker and says, please start the file with a comment. So let's try this out. So the custom builder itself is a JavaScript file too, so you can run the script on the same source code actually. And if I save this file, you can see the error warning here is popping up and was added to my workspace. A typical use case for this would be, for example, if you have an executable, a linter, for example, that checks for code errors, for code flaws, which might be some kind of console program. You could launch it with the very same means we launched the Explorer first. So remember, you had that run process where you could launch your linter, reparse all the errors and warnings it gives to you, and push them to the Eclipse workspace and create your warnings there. So no more need to learn about the builder framework or things like that. Just add your scripts to your system. A similar one is the changelog script I'd like to show you. So before that, we had the on-save keyword. Now we have an on-resource change, which is a more generalized form. So it reacts on any change in your workspace, like when you do a Git checkout, for example, or when you import projects, when you delete or create files. Of course, it also reacts when you save files. So this is also a way to react on stuff. What this small script does is it just monitors all JavaScript files and all changes to JavaScript files in your workspace, and it creates a small changelog file in your workspace to that. So let's try this out. Just creating a new file, and you see it also created a changelog file here. So it gives me some nice timestamp and just says, oh, this file was added. So let's change it a bit. And you can see we get change events in here, which we simply can monitor. Onwards to the next one. Tasks for today shows you how you can reuse Eclipse API. What it does is, stop. I'd like to show this to you first. It has a new keyword called onStartup, which means whenever the script appears in the workspace, typically on an Eclipse launch, we will run this script. And what we do here is we ask Mylin for their tasks that are due for today. And if there are some tasks that are due for today, we display this short message dialog. So if we do a restart, we should see some messages popping up because I added one message in here, or one Mylin task for today. So this one should pop up. Come on. So you've seen the task popping up. We had some delay in here. This is somehow wanted. We have a parameter in here which says how many seconds do you want to wait after the Eclipse start. This is somehow important because you do not know about the launch order. It could be that your scripts are launched before the UI is actually there. So you need maybe some delay that the UI can come up safely before you display dialogues in here. The last script I'd like to show you today is some practical thing I'm using. It came from an annoyance. Normally when I work in the office, often my wife calls and tells me, oh, could you buy some bread when you come home? And I say, of course, I'll do. And how it's happening, I forget about this when I go home. And then you might know I'm running into troubles at home by that. So I wrote a short script that reminds me of things to do. So it consists of two parts. The one is a remember script where I can add things that I do want to remember. And the second one is a script that runs on shutdown. So when I close down my Eclipse and shut it down, it pops up and reminds me, hey, you should do something before you go home. Now the remember script introduces another keyword. It's called keyboard. So it allows you to add keyboard shortcuts to scripts, and whenever you hit that keyboard shortcut, the script is launched. It takes the same syntax as you can find it in the preferences when you define keys in there. So it's easily to find out what to write actually in here. You do have to be a bit careful about this because you could reassign keyboard shortcuts that are already assigned, so it would have a double assignment actually, which then would trigger 2 actions at the same keyboard event. So let me push those 2 to the live folder again. Now we're hitting Shift F9. And it asked me, what do I want to remember? Buy some milk. Just to give you a glimpse how this works. So we have a module called scripting. Typically, script engines are completely decoupled from each other, so one doesn't know about the other. It's like having multiple sandboxes running scripts in your Eclipse environment. To share objects in between, you need some storage that both scripts can access. The scripting module provides such a storage, so it has some kind of get shared object and set shared object methods, which use keywords to set any kind of Java object you like to a shared store that another script can consume. So you can see we have this keyword here, and we're setting basically a Java list where we remember our items. And on the shutdown script, we just get the shared object, and if it contains some content, we'll display the pop-up dialog. That's how it works. So we just remembered something, so let's shut down. Did I hit exit? So the pop-up comes up and says, please buy some stuff. You could do any other stuff. You could save unsaved editors or things like that on shutdown or whatever you like. This was my last example I'd like to show you. So I'm going back to the slides, giving you some more information on ease. You've seen that we can record those scripts. You've seen that we can push them to dedicated locations. You've already seen that we can change the UI a bit. The keyword mechanism that we can react on events is quite new, and we're pushing almost daily new events to that mechanism. So if you have ideas for new events you want to react on, please push it back to Bugzilla and we'll add that. But ease is more than this. Ease can also do charting, for example, so it's used for live measurements or things like that. With ease, you could also write unit tests. So it has a framework very similar to JUnit, which allows you to write tests in a scripted way. This is quite handy if you do not test Java classes, but do want to test your whole system. So if you test your whole application, it might be handy to have such scripts that test interaction in between components, interaction maybe with external programs or things like that. Ease also allows you to directly interact with Java files you host in your workspace. So if you think this is just a plain Java file with a main method that just pops up a message box, this file is stored in my workspace here. So you can see it on the left-hand side in the Project Explorer. This was the file I was just displaying. In the Rhino script shell, or in the script shell generally, you can create dynamically an instance of that file. So I'm not relaunching a new Java interpreter in my running IDE. I'm creating an instance of the file I have stored in my workspace. And of course, when you can create an instance, you can also launch methods upon it. So we can call the main method, for example, and see the pop-up box coming up. We do support quite a lot of engines, and the list is growing, growing, and growing. So we started with Rhino, which is basically our main language we hosted at eclipse.org. So this is the thing you would get by default when you install Ease. Rhino JavaScript interpreter. It might be somehow outdated because there is Nashorn out there, as you know, with Java 8. But Nashorn has a drawback. It doesn't have a debugger. So if you do want to debug your scripts, you currently need Rhino for that. For quite some time, we also had Jython in there, a Java interpreter based on Python, a Python interpreter based on Java. Just recently, we became a new Python interpreter, or a Python link to a Python interpreter using Py4j. It allows you to use any Python interpreter you have on your system, like IPython, for example, and run scripts there and communicate with the Eclipse instance. So if you're interested in that, I saw Jonah and Tracy, hi there, from Kichiba Coders. Those are the guys doing that stuff, so please bug them if you have any questions to that. We do also have support for Groovy and Druby. Both are basically more showcases. We do not do a lot with them, actually. We do have support to run the native JVM stuff, so that you did see we can access directly Java classes from the workspace. We do have some working demo for Bean Shell, which is basically some kind of demonstration which you can find on my blog later on, how to integrate your own interpreter into that system. So the system is fully extensible. If you have a DSL you want to push to ease, you can do it easily, so we have a step-by-step guide how to do that. Okay, so if you want to get in touch with us, eclipse.org/ease is a project-based site, and my blog, code@meblogspot.com, holds a lot of examples to ease, how you can use it, how you can extend it. So this will be the end of my talk. Please do not forget to rate the sessions, and if you have any questions, it's your time now. Yes, please. Could we have the mic? Yeah, perfect.
From what I understand, you can create an instance of a Java class in your workspace without relaunching Eclipse.
Yes.
So can you also, let's say, implement a view and then just instantiate that view and show the view without relaunching the workspace, or?
We tried to do that. The problem is the plugin registry at Eclipse, it doesn't update and refresh. So you can push stuff there, but Eclipse does ignore it. That's basically the problem that we have so far. I guess with E4 mechanisms, this might work, because you have the model and you could change the model dynamically. That might work, but we didn't try that out. With typical plugins, it doesn't work.
Can you do that with, let's say, a composite?
You can do composite. So we had a demo, a workshop on Tuesday, where Tracy and Jonah provided some samples where they popped up their own UI, having trees and tables and all that kind of stuff in there,
well,
right from scripts.
That's already enough,
Yeah,
I guess.
that's working.
Thank you.
You had there some magic variables in the comments, like menu, toolbar, and whatever. From where do I know what can I use there?
Oh, you can find those keywords on our wiki. We do plan to add properties to that, so that the properties view will automatically show you all the keywords that the system knows of, and provide some help, some code completion for that, for example, to help you to add the parameters to that. As this keyword mechanism is quite fresh, we do not have the UI integration for this yet. Currently, they are on the wiki. Any more questions? Okay, thanks a lot. Enjoy the last day of the conference. Thank you.